A few years ago, I made an assembly table using the Microjig Matchfit dovetail system. So those are dovetail tracks routed on the edge of the table and on the top of the table. And they fit dovetail clamps made by Microjig. I really like them. They can slide in there. You can move them anywhere on the tabletop and clamp pieces down either to the edge or the top. So it's a really useful little system. And there's a lot I like about this table. It's on wheels. I can roll it around anywhere I want. So I can use it as an in-feed and out-feed table. It's adjustable. I put it on top of an adjustable table. I think it's like a standing desk type table. So I can adjust it to whatever height I need to use it as an in-feed or an out-feed table. It holds my Shaper Origin workstation. And the workstation is something to hold pieces to use the CNC router on. And I also have all of the little accessories I need, the bits and collets and tape and what have you that I need for the Shaper Origin are right there. So that's really convenient. There is a lot I like about this table, but it has a bad flaw, a nasty flaw. It almost immediately warped. And I think it warped because of those dovetail tracks. The tracks are only on the top side, so it's not holding the table flat. I think you'd need some metal or something in there to keep it flat if you were to do it right. In any event, I'm going to try to flatten it using an old antique number 7 Bailey handplane. I think it was made in sometime in the early 1900s, maybe like 1919 to 1925, if my research is right. It's about 22 inches long, and the plane would be known as a jointer plane. The blade needs sharpening. I've got my sharpening station kind of on a French cleat above my workbench. It's diamond stones on a little diamond stone holder. I've got a bench hook built into the sharpening station so it kind of stays in place as I'm moving the blade back and forth to sharpen it. I hold the blade in a Veritas honing guide. I really like using a honing guide. I don't think if I did it freehand I'd get nearly as good a results. I'm just not that experienced and skilled at sharpening. Sharpening just seems like kind of a fetish in the woodworking world. This is a really easy system. It works really well. The diamond stones I think are $100 or so investment to start with, at least when I got them, but they seem to last forever and work really well. So here I am sharpening away. Sharpening is really boring. Here I'm going to show it speeded up, and even that I've cut out some of it. The blade was in pretty bad shape, so it needed a lot of work. So I'm just going from coarser to finer grits, obviously on those diamond stones, using a little lubricant, just some glass cleaner to move the pieces around. But I think you could actually use those diamond stones dry. Anyways, after a lot of sharpening, most of which I don't show here, I got a pretty good edge on it. I think it looks pretty nice at that point. So I'll be taking it out of the honing guide and using a strop. I hold the strop down on my workbench with a little dowel, so as I'm drawing the blade towards myself, the strop stays in place. The strop's just a piece of leather glued down to that a piece of plywood, and there's some stropping compound, that green stuff on top of the leather. One of the weird things I see, on YouTube all the time is guys shaving themselves, with the plane blade. It's so sharp, I can shave the hair off the back of my hand. I wasn't able to get any hair off the back of my hand, but I still think it's sharp enough to use. Here I'm just using the edge of the plane to show what the high part is. The high part just goes right down the middle, as you would expect. That's where it warped. And that's what I'm going to be taking off by using the plane. There's nothing magical here. I'm just moving the plane diagonally and taking off chunks out of the middle. It's a long enough plane that it worked really well for this. You can see it's taking pieces out for the middle. That's where the high part is. It's not touching the low parts, and that's exactly what I want. Pretty time-consuming process. I'd say it took, you know, over an hour. I didn't time myself actually doing it, and I'm certainly not going to show you the whole process, even speed it up. It's just too long and boring. So it's basically just back and forth, again, going diagonally to try to get that down. As the clips progress on this thing, you'll see the tabletop gets, it starts to change color a little bit because I'm going through different layers of the plywood that's on the tabletop surface. You'll see some of the darker layers of the plywood show up as I go down. I think I took off, you know, over 1/8 of an inch of plywood. There you can see there's kind of some edges where it's actually gone through a couple of layers of the plywood. One of the dark edges shows, and it's even gone down to a layer below that. So it's taken off quite a lot of wood, and there's quite a lot of chips around. Again, just a tedious process, pretty boring process, to be honest. Almost to the end of what I'm going to show you on this. It's getting fairly flat. I brought out a straight edge, so the reflection makes it look like there's this huge belly in the middle of it. There's not. It's actually pretty flat. That's just a reflection on the straight edge surface from the lights up above. I'm using a feeler gauge to kind of get an idea of how close I am on it. Got to take out a little bit more in this corner. It was a little bit high over here still. But overall, you know, it's pretty good. It's not going to be perfect, both because of my skill and my patience, but it's a lot flatter than it was. Here I use a feeler gauge just to show, I think this is 18/100ths of an inch. I can slip it in, you know, there's some friction, so that's about 18/100ths there. That's a little bit too low. I can't fit it in there. There I can fit it in with a little friction. So, you know, around 18/100ths is my tolerance for error. The plane wobbles a tiny bit when I move it around, but that's pretty flat. There it doesn't wobble at all, so I'm pretty happy with this. Does it still work? Well, if I'm clamping towards the edge of the work piece, of the edge of the table, it works fine. That holds it down, no problem. But, as you'll see in a second, when I move the piece to the middle, the dovetail clamp now sits a little bit proud of the work surface, of the table surface. So that means it's really not going to work. You'll see in a second. I can clamp it down. The clamp gets tight, but the piece itself still rocks around. So I can now clamp from the edge, which I couldn't do before because the table was so badly warped, but I still can't clamp from the middle. So overall, it's a workshop improvement. It doesn't 100% fix the problem. Nothing will. It's just a flaw in the design, I think, of this table. And too bad, you know, it's just not going to be perfect, but it's better than it was. It still fits the workstation, so it'll still be useful for all the things it was useful for previously, and now I can use it for some assembly purposes. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this. Thanks. Bye.